despite what their moms told them. They just aren't talented enough for radio. Unfortunately, anyone can have a show these days. Sean.
Well, I'm pretty hard to figure out sometimes. In fact, I can't even figure myself out sometimes, so don't you try to.
Joe.
You're an idiot. And really a disloyal person.
This is the Cuse Militia. Those two unapologetically biased, orange-blooded homers, Sean and Joe.
It's the most bullshit thing I've seen in 30 years.
Welcome, orange men and ladies. Happy Sunday. This is the Cuse Militia with Sean and Joe for the Believe Entertainment Network at Cuse Militia on the socials. Go there, join the militia. We are going to talk a little bit about the last four games, very little bit about the previous three. 3 overtime win against Boston College yesterday afternoon at the Dome, 95-86. I don't know how you don't get to at least 100 points with an extra 15 minutes of play, but hey, that's being judgy. And the good, the bad of it, you'll hear from us. We will hear from you. Some bad news announced before yesterday's game. Donnie Freeman, he's going to undergo surgery, I guess, this week. And they're calling it a lower right leg injury. So he is going to be out for the year. And you just hope that he comes back. But I guess nothing's guaranteed anymore. So wish him the best of luck in as far as recovery and everything. Obviously, hope he stays for next year. And see what happens. Syracuse on the cusp of still playing and flirting with being in or out of the ACC tournament. A lot of talk about that starting to come up, obviously, as the season winds down. And they are a game ahead in Notre Dame. And really, from there, they control their own destiny. And from there on out. Because even if Notre Dame leapfrogs them, they've still got, right now, at least a 3-game spread over Boston College and NC State, and then 4 games over Miami. So,
yep,
it's not looking bad for the tournament. You go, take a look at the schedule, and you got Miami next, right? So, North Carolina could be a sneaky good game for Syracuse. I'm hoping, just to shut some of the Carolina fans up that are in my area down here in Virginia Beach. Joe, I'm sure you would love that win. And Pittsburgh, obviously, we know who they are, but NC State is terrible this year. Virginia Tech is not great, and SMU is good, and Virginia is iffy as well. So the slate, my point is the slate from here on out to get into the ACC tournament looks good for Syracuse. I even looked at some of their, really Boston College. I don't foresee them having some kind of miraculous comeback in the ACC. So
no. I mean, look, there's still some teams, that have those opportunities. But when you have the bottom 3, no team has more than 2 wins, and then you have Notre Dame, who's the last team in right now that they're 4-8. So I mean, they still have 2 games ahead of that, and obviously we're ahead of them. So yeah, considering that we still have only Virginia Tech and North Carolina, which again I think are games we could probably compete in, based upon how I've seen them, look. SMU is probably going to be pretty tough, but other than that, Virginia's tied with us, and then every other game we have is against teams below us. So, yeah,
and want to talk. Syracuse goes out to California. They go 1-1 out there. Both of those games. So we haven't been here. We didn't get here last week because I was not in town. I had a work trip down to San Antonio and Saturday night, obviously, Tuesday night, right? Tuesday or Wednesday night? The game was at 11 o'clock. So
11, yeah.
Okay. So didn't watch a lick of that. Watched a condensed game. And then Saturday, the game's at 10, which normally wouldn't have been a big deal. But I had to catch a flight. I had to leave the house. I had to be at the airport at 5. So I didn't stay up for that game. Watched the condensed game at the airport, but those condensed games don't do a whole lot. However, never looked at a box score, but Syracuse looked like that could have been one of their most put together games of the whole season against a decent team. So
okay.
What's that?
You said Cal?
Yeah, Cal.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And it looked like to me they went out there motivated. And Syracuse shows sparks of this. And with a California team, it's kind of middle of the row in the ACC right now. I mean, they're only there's this 5-game group, 5-win group, I should say. In Pitt, Florida State, Cal, Virginia, Georgia Tech, and Syracuse. And that's, it's the middle of the row, I would say, obviously. And, Cal, I think Cal started off a whole lot better and looked a whole lot better than they did against Syracuse. But either way, I think that's a good win for Syracuse. I think...
the West Coast, right?
Yeah, because that was the second game of the stint out there, too. So they might have been a little bit more adjusted. You know what I mean? It could have been...
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because when you look at it, I think Stanford started off, it was like 24-2 or something.
Yeah,
I think they only scored. It was 25-4, 10 minutes in. So it's like, okay. Took us a little while to get going out there in the West Coast, but we played Stanford pretty much. The rest of that first half, we actually got it within 9 at halftime, 24-33, and we ended up losing by 9. We tied the second half, so really that game, we were competing with them. It was just the first 10 minutes, and who knows if that is just a situation where they were just trying to get used to obviously the West Coast, so they weren't used to it. Then by the time you rolled around 3 days later at Cal, and you come out, and that's probably the fastest, or the hottest that we've had as far as start. And although California came back, got it within 6, and we only ended up winning by 9, I really was never really nervous about that game. So overall, I think it was a pretty good showing out on the West Coast. I just wish that we could have, had a little bit close. Think about it. We just scored 10 points in the first 10 minutes instead of 4. You're still talking about a 1-possession game at the end of it. So, overall, I didn't think it was that bad having to go out West Coast, because normally we don't have to go out West Coast in the middle of the season, right?
Well, no, and you ever been to California, Joe?
Unfortunately.
Okay, all right. So I've only been once, but it wasn't that long ago, so I remember it well. Going back 3 hours and having to wait for something that's going to be starting your time, 11 o'clock. It's a brutal long wait. It takes days to get adjusted to that, like 4 or 5 days. I was only in California for 4 days, 5 days, 4 days. I left on day 5. And you can't adjust that quickly. I think it was the best thing for Syracuse, actually, to have to stay out there. I think that's what kind of gave them the edge against Cal, because they got off to a sluggish start. We've seen that, but that was extremely sluggish. I would chalk that up to just having the travel time and playing a game at 11 o'clock your time. I think it definitely bodes much better for a West Coast team coming to the East Coast and playing at 7 o'clock, which would be like 4 in the afternoon, right?
Yeah.
So, or if you got to play a Saturday at noon, it's not great, but it's still 9 o'clock in the morning. You know what I'm saying? It's not like the late thing. Your body just doesn't adjust well to that. So I'm glad it's over. I'm glad we got out of there 1-1. I'm happy that we got that. I didn't know if we were going to be able to go 1-1 out there. And hats off to Miami for winning their first ACC game and beating Notre Dame last week. So
yeah.
That would have been sad for them to see. It's sad for everybody to see them go winless in the ACC. I don't think that's good for anybody.
Yeah.
Unless it is Notre Dame or Pitt, then it's good for everybody. But, when it comes down to what Syracuse is doing right now, they're just, what you see is what you get. I don't necessarily think they're getting any better or worse. I just think that they're inconsistent, and they're consistently inconsistent. But when it comes to playing teams of high caliber, quality teams, Syracuse just is so outmatched that it's kind of embarrassing. And it's not even like, I don't even get mad about it. Like the Duke, that was the first Duke game that I actually watched where I was just like not getting emotionally invested in it because I knew what to expect. And when you go 10 minutes, like they went 10 minutes, the score was like, gosh, what was it, dude? It wasn't until they switched defense to where it really started to open up. But the score was, I think, like 11-9 for like the longest time, I feel like, right? So Syracuse hangs in there for 8 to 10 minutes of this thing. They can't capitalize on anything because Duke's shooting like garbage. They can't capitalize because their defense is still playing well. And then they go to the zone and they kind of get thralled by a few 3-point shots that get sunk. And from there, it was kind of a mess. I think it was 14 points lead at the half for Duke and then end up getting waxed by 29. So you just, even when Syracuse had a little bit more talent, but not just that, they had a little bit more, I don't know, they were still more evenly matched. We're not used to seeing them just get waxed by quality teams. We do have a tendency to at least hang and make things interesting. And the past couple of years have been a little bit different. But anyway, kind of expected that, Joe. I'm not mad about it. It is what it is. Duke loses last night. Clemson came out and beat them. So, Clemson's fringy really good too. And I know they're not ranked right now, but I think they were earlier in the year. They're playing high quality basketball themselves. So good for them for beating the number 2 team in the nation. Duke had a chance, if they win that game, to be ranked first in the country probably tomorrow. So, or whatever it is, Tuesday, right? Yeah. But they didn't. And you know what I was thinking? I said, Clemson's going to storm the court. So help me if we see dramatics from Shire and a player out there, okay? Because, we all remember that last year, right? And, yeah. So, anyways, they did storm the court. It looked like Brownell was a little irritated by that himself. But your team just beat Duke, dude. Freaking enjoy it, man. Don't be such a stick in the mud, that guy.
Well, I mean, Duke, they were like undefeated as well, right? And
yeah, in the ACC, yeah.
And one of those calls or one of those plays at the end, it's just you like to see a game end on a good note instead of something.
The slip?
I mean,
that's a travel.
That was coming off of a timeout. Something wasn't. I mean, it wasn't cleaned up over there, So it's just unfortunate.
Shit happens. It wasn't cleaned up after he fell either. So because he almost slipped again, or he did slip. He just didn't fall. I mean, it happens. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, I know. Like I said, it's just think about if that was your team, you'd be pretty upset.
I guess I'd be upset, but if I was 11-1 in the ACC, I could only bitch so much.
No,
I mean.
Yeah. Not really worried about it. I know.
Yeah. I mean, look, you know what? Sometimes I think the Lord gives me something just for my own entertainment. And it's not very often, but he threw me a bone last night. And I enjoyed that. So,
I get it.
I get it. Okay. So, go on. I'm listening.
I was just saying that is
it unfortunate? Yes, it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Okay, it's unfortunate.
I was going to go back to our game. I mean, it's like
okay.
We were down 7 with about 7 minutes to go, and then obviously it goes to 14 points, and thought we were playing pretty good. But we've seen it this year with pretty much all those type of we play against a tournament caliber team, and we just usually get handled, and Duke's handled a lot of teams just like that. So. So overall, I was prepared for our game against Duke. And then to go to the Clemson thing, obviously, I didn't think that Duke would go undefeated. You usually end up losing a couple anyway. You get everybody's best go at it, and it's tough to play down there at Clemson. So
do we want to talk about Carl Mintz, who is, I guess, related to Judah, but also his godfather, the way I understand it? And I've seen this gentleman on here before, and it wasn't anything positive that time either, while we're talking about Duke. And we can talk about...
And it's always tough, though, right? Because do we even know if it's true?
Well, I haven't read it yet, so I have it up. I'm about to read it. But there was something else last year with Carl Mintz in regard to Judah, I believe, and being on this team. And I don't remember what it was. And I don't think it matters right now, but Malik Brown comes out, he gets booed, right? You don't like that. I personally don't care. I don't think fans have to show someone loyalty after they leave because they left. Malik Brown chose to play for a competitor in the conference, and in my opinion, he had it coming. That doesn't take anything away from him as a person or how he plays. And everybody listening knows I love Malik Brown because he was like my favorite player on that. He was your favorite player too last year. We loved him. We raved about Malik Brown. When he left and he's going to Duke, we were devastated. So it's not that. But you bring this stuff on yourselves. So I have no sympathy there. However, so I didn't listen to the presser, but apparently no one asked about Malik Brown. So he says, surprised no one asked about Malik Brown, who had a great game in his return to the Hill. I couldn't be happier for him. Malik is a great kid from a great family. He got out of a dumpster fire and is now playing on a contender. Having a great game must have been sweet in light of how Red treated him after he decided to go in the portal. Barring him from working out at the Mello Center was disrespectful and petty. He did the same to Quadir after forcing him out of the program. Red is not only a bad coach, but does not have the temperament and personal management skills to be a head coach. He lost the locker room last year with his suspension of Benny and refused to accept changes in his offense due to the arrogance and stubbornness. Chances are he won't win 20 games this season. Dude, okay, first of all, Carl, if you're paying attention, like he's not even come close to 20, all right? Because I don't even think the math works out to have 20. Anyway, I digress. Chances are he won't win 20 games this season and might go under 500. He did a terrible job in the portal this year and last. Syracuse deserves what they get. Well, that seems... Talk about disrespectful and petty, Carl. And I'm just now reading this. So, the hell is that? I'm just now reading this, but, you know, there's a lack of self-awareness there when we talk about disrespectful and petty, at least petty, the petty part of it. So, yeah, so that's my first time seeing that. It's unfortunate. I guess those are my thoughts, is that Mr. Mintz lacks self-awareness in his comments bashing a active head coach and, you know, should give someone to ask something about. Like, you know, if I was a reporter, I would at least give Red a chance to defend himself, even if he doesn't say anything. But interesting. So, thoughts?
Yeah,
Joe?
he had. I can give you some thoughts, but he added another one too that I just shared to you. And again, this is me. This is us speculating because I don't know if this is real or not. It looks real. I don't know. You just don't know what to believe anymore. So,
well, he wouldn't. It wouldn't be fake. I mean, it's not that it's fake, right? You want me to read this one first before you comment?
You can.
Forgot to mention that not only did Red keep Malik from working out at the Mello, he also cursed him out after he went into the portal. After all Malik did to help him win, like playing the 5 when he preferred to play the 4, Red curses him out. How unprofessional, pathetic can that be? Malik made a decision that he felt was in his best interest. Red should have some respect in that. Red should have respected that and wished him well. Yeah, see, we're only getting one side of this whole thing.
Yeah,
sounds terrible, right?
It really does. It sounds like somebody that obviously has something against Coach Red. That's also to say that, you know, there's obviously a possibility that this obviously could be true. So, you know, we don't really know one way or another. So, yeah. And I do know that I did see something from Judah Mintz, though, that came out this weekend that essentially said something about how he loved his time here at Syracuse and that he'll be orange forever and stuff like that. So I just feel like I found that the timing of that was kind of, you know, weird as well, right? Just conveniently that he's, you know, throwing love out for Syracuse when this comes out is around the timing of. So who knows what's going on? Obviously, it's the age of social media, but obviously it seems like there's some type of personal thing going on, and I doubt we'll hear it from Red, and we'll even hear a response as far as that goes. So, I
mean, it's tough for someone like Adrian Autry. By the way, where's Quadir right now? I'm not saying this to be like passive aggressive. I'm serious. Where'd he end up going? I forgot.
McNeese State.
That's That's right. Didn't we just talk about McNeese State not that long ago? What's he looking like this year? I'm sure he's doing good. I mean, he had a star role with Syracuse this year. So obviously we kind of speculated last year about maybe some of the goings on in the locker room, right? And the Quadir Copeland thing was a bit of a mystery to us at the time. And the Malik Brown thing was too, in a way, but he did not really want to play center. I'm sure he did a fantastic job. We've been patching up center for 3-4 years now, and he did a fantastic job there. And he probably had an idea of where he could go, that being Duke, and took that opportunity. And that's good. He's good there. He's gonna be good wherever he goes. He's an excellent basketball player, and I just the drama is fun sometimes, but it's also a distraction. Not that it really matters for our team this year, because I think the distraction's the least of their worries. But with that said, I think, if I was Adrian Autry, I'd want to clear my name. And, sometimes I think coaches hold back on that stuff because they don't want to get down in the mud with these things. And I understand that. But as a human being, you either want to be like, look, there's two sides of this story. There's some truth to that. Like, I'm sure there's some truth to it. But if you go in the portal, bro, we just listen to our football coach say, well, if you're talking about leaving the team, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're a snake. What do you do as a snake? Chop his head off, right? Okay. Mm-hmm. So, do you think Fran Brown would let anybody that was going in the portal or talking about going in the portal after he chops their head off, going to work, going to do workouts with the team and all that stuff? Hell to the no. You know why? Because it's a freaking it's negative energy, dude. It's negative energy. You don't allow people who are, in the world of sports today could be called traitors, okay? You don't let traitors into the locker room from the team they're leaving. That's a bad idea. Hey man, why don't you enter the portal, man? Hey, what are you doing? So that's not dumb. And it's actually pretty smart to not allow people who are entering the portal back into your circle. And it wasn't you that kicked them out. As long as it wasn't you that kicked them out to begin with, then I see no problems with it.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know what he's bitching about. And this is Judah Mintz's uncle or godfather or something. Like, you think Judah might be like, hey man, what are you doing?
No, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I don't know. Who knows what the actual behind the scenes is as far as that goes, right? And so I get where you're coming from in that aspect of it. And obviously, again, this kind of stuff, I mean, eventually, I don't even think we're going to need to actually, hear the truth from somebody as much as it just comes down to, if this is true, and this is how Red possibly is, then him being a head coach and being able to get talent isn't going to last too long, right?
No, it will not. Especially the word of mouth of it. You see one story on Twitter. Well, if people on the team or formerly on the team start, confirming those thoughts and rumors, then it's going to be extremely hard, like you said. So, I mean, you're not going to last that long as a head coach either doing that. So, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's truth to it. It's just how much. But I don't blame Coach for banning people that go into the portal from workouts in the Mello Center. That's not mean or nasty. It's smart, in my opinion. I'd do the same damn thing, and so would Coach Brown.
I think that there's some parts of that message that I think is okay, and then I think there's other parts that, if true, are not okay. So. Well,
of course, you won't want to cuss someone out just because they're leaving, right?
Right.
Yeah, I'm not talking about that. I don't think that's cool. But we don't know. We'll have to take this with a grain of salt. And I'm going to say that I think some of it's true, and maybe some of it's an elaboration. Carl Mintz wasn't in the locker room, so whatever information, as far as I know, whatever information he's getting is hearsay anyway. So,
yeah.
So, and look, Adrian Autry, not exactly a fan favorite right now. Let's be honest. So I'm sure there's plenty of Syracuse fans that look at this and think it's gospel, and they'll run with it. I'm sure there'll be plenty of people to run with it. I'm shocked that, I haven't been on Twitter. I've barely been paying attention to basketball, period. I've just been busy. Last week was probably the busiest week I've had in my adult life as far as work goes. But, just now seeing this, it's just kind of like, I don't know. I think it feeds the fans a little bit because of where they're at right now,
Oh yeah, I think that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
Like if we were playing good, I don't think that. I mean, that comment might have never even came out.
It probably wouldn't, because he called it a dumpster fire, and if we were playing good, it wouldn't be a dumpster fire, right?
Right.
It's a shot across the bow.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And so when I talk about Coach Red defending himself, like, this dude threw a shot across the bow. When in the spotlight or not, if it's about you, you should want to clear your name up. And I'm shocked that he hasn't been asked about it. If it's been around since what was the Duke game? What day was that? Wednesday?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's right. So it's been around since then, right? So I don't know. It's like, it's so weird. The Syracuse media is so weird. You know what I mean? Like, why wouldn't you ask about this? You got this juicy rumor hanging over your head. You're not going to ask about it? You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's mind-boggling to me. I don't understand. But anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll see if anything develops there. I really don't care if it does or doesn't. And as far as Malik Brown goes, I wish him luck. I would never wish, I might wish people not luck, but...
Look, man, I mean... I didn't like the fact that he was booed, and... I know obviously, I know you don't care. But,
I don't care. I mean, he's a grown-ass man. He did it to himself. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
I wouldn't boo him. I wouldn't.
Right.
But when I heard it, I was like, oh, well, I mean, kind of had that coming.
Yeah. I mean, I knew that Duke was good, and Malik went in there, and, maybe people didn't like his body language, or I think he went in there. Obviously, he wanted something to prove, and, he had a game that reminded us of why we miss Malik Brown.
Yeah, and also we,
did a little bit.
we there was an awkward moment with an intentional foul, where he got pulled down. I think was it Lucas Taylor or Elijah Moore? Lucas Taylor.
Yeah.
Where he got pulled down at the basket on a fast break, and I wished that hadn't happened because it was Malik Brown. But, I mean, I don't know. It was just it was awkward. It was obvious. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's an obvious intentional foul, like unnecessary. I don't think it was a good look. If it was anyone else on the team, maybe it wouldn't be so awkward. But yeah, whatever. And let's be honest. Lucas Taylor didn't play with Malik Brown last year and probably holds no grudges against him or anything like that. But yeah, Malik Brown had a good day. He had a good day. 4 steals, 8 rebounds. So yeah, it's not what I wanted. I can tell you that.
No, but he did a little bit of everything that reminded us of what we're missing with him. And to your point,
his defense is awesome.
Yeah. And as far as Quadir Copeland goes, McNeese State is currently on, I think, the last 14 games. They're 13-1. They're 12-1 in their conference, 18-6 overall. Quadir Copeland, he's like in and out of the lineup, averages somewhere around 20 minutes, leads the team in assists. So right. They play a different kind of style. So yeah, probably going to be the number 1 seed in their conference tournament. And, from what I see, most likely going to be the team that makes it to the tournament. So we'll be able to see him.
All right. Well, let's move on to Boston College. I'm just going to say a quick couple things because we've already spoken enough about basketball, and I think people get it. It's a good win yesterday. I'm just happy to beat Boston College. Now, some people will say, well, it doesn't matter the opponent. But to me, it does. I mean, let's be realistic here. Boston College sucks. In fact, they suck so bad that I thought Syracuse had this damn thing in the bag. And so what happened was yesterday, I'm going to tell the story because it was on Twitter way too early. So I paused the game with like 4 minutes left in the first half because there was a surprise party for one of my son's friends in the neighborhood. So we walk over to the house, everybody gets set up. Well, they're late. They're like we were there over an hour waiting. So my TV was paused the whole time. So I texted Joe while I'm there. I'm like, hey, man, there ain't no way I'm going to get caught up in this game. No freaking way. I bet my next paycheck I'll never get caught up in this game. You're going to have to let me know when it's over, and I'll post. Well, it was like 47 seconds left in the game, and I'm like, this game has got to be over. And Joe just left me hanging. So I said, screw it. I'm just going to post it because Syracuse got this in the bag, and I'm going to look stupid posting this 10 minutes after the game's over. So I post it, and I give Joe crap about it, and he said, what do you mean? He said, what do you mean? The game's still going on. I'm like, oh my gosh, this thing goes into overtime. So anyways, it went into overtime 3 times. Not once, but 3 times. So anyways.
Yeah, you texted me. Yeah, you forgot to tell me the game was over. And I said, it's because it's not.
Yeah, it wasn't. Anyway, I was like, holy cow. So I'm like, there's no way. So I'm watching the last 47 seconds of this game, and I'm just like beside myself. I'm like, they freaking blew this. In my opinion, just, stats and everything aside and win aside, okay? And the win's fine. I love the win, okay? Boston College, I love the win. They should have never had to go into overtime with Boston College yesterday. I don't think the game should. I know Boston College has done some decent things lately, but I just don't think that it should have gotten to that point. I feel like we should have beat them. We beat them pretty decently at home the first go around, but we sweep Boston College, and that's the important thing. That's the important thing. Free throws, bro. Like, this team sucks at free throws, dude. It is so bad. It is so bad. And you know what? They actually did really good in overtime. They didn't shoot a free throw against Duke. See, this is when you're talking about, oh, well, it's unfortunate that, that game ended the way it did, blah, blah, blah. Bro, that team plays so aggressively. And we got to the line, the first time we got to the line against Duke was with like a minute 30 left in the game. I mean, how many free throws did we shoot? 2?
Yeah, not a lot.
Come on, man. The way Duke plays, they're not following. Come on. That's why you slip in a pile of sweat and they call it travel on you. That's why I don't care right there. That's exactly why. So, anyways, Syracuse did do a good job getting to the line yesterday. Unfortunately, they only capitalized 18 out of 32, and they had opportunities in that game to put it away. And the field goal percentage for both teams is terrible. 47% for Syracuse and 42% for Boston College. It was like really, really, really terrible. There was a sequence for each team where they shot the ball on offense like 5 times each. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
There was a sequence for Syracuse that kept going out of bounds or something like that, and they kept inbounding the ball. And I think they scored on their 5th possession of that sequence. And then Boston College, I think, got almost pretty much the same thing, but I don't think they scored. Like, it was just really bad, dude. The ball was a hot potato. The one thing I could say that's consistent for Syracuse, though, is Eddie Lampkin's rebounding. And another double-double for him. I think this is his 9th or 10th double-double this season. He played 49 minutes. 49 minutes for that big dude, right? With only 3 personal fouls, too. So I got to give that dude credit. J.J. Starling comes out, balls out in the second half, a little quiet, and then just turned it on. And he's known for that a little bit. But 28 points, I believe that's a season high for him. A little disappointed we didn't get the hundo, but that's okay. So free throws and field goal percentage is needs to be worked on. And obviously we hit some threes. We hit 2 threes right away, right? Wasn't it Lucas Taylor hit 2 threes right away? Or no. Elijah Moore. Yeah. Elijah Moore hit 2 threes right off the get. and it looked pretty. And, I'm just glad they beat Boston College. We sweep them for the year. We're on to Miami. This is a good momentum builder for Syracuse. And I think going into Miami and just putting a full game together is going to mean a lot going into Carolina and Chapel Hill and playing Carolina there at 6 o'clock next Saturday. So an evening game next Saturday. And yeah, got to beat Miami, put the full game together, get some confidence. This team needed this win against Boston College, despite their stumbling and bumbling that has happened through the past 6 games. They needed it. They needed that one. So I'm just glad. Yeah. I'm just glad they won. And the old
dude, it got nerve-wracking, right? It was real close. It seemed like we kind of had it a couple different times in the game, and like you said, it came back, and the first overtime was a little.
Second one, we were down by 7, right?
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to get to. I guess kudos to, because they got to a point to where Boston College, I thought, because they had gotten the momentum at the end of the second half to go into the first overtime, and then we gutted that out to get to the next one. But then the momentum again, I think there was 3 minutes to go, and so the first 2 minutes of the second overtime, they take a 83-76 lead. They're up 7, and it wasn't looking good. And then we go on a run to tie it to get into the triple overtime. And I think it was 85-85. And
they scored 1 point in overtime, Boston College, the third one.
In the third overtime, yeah. So, realistically, with 3 minutes to go in the second overtime, we were down 7 at 83-76, and we win the game 95-86. So the last 8 minutes of that game between the second and third overtime, we outscored them 19-3. And we actually started hitting a couple free throws.
Yeah, I was just going to say a lot of that was the free throws we hit. We were actually hitting free throws. It took the second and third overtime to start hitting free throws, but eventually they did. They still only ended up at 56%.
57?
Yeah, 56. So, good win heading into Miami, and that Miami game is at Miami. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, it's at Miami.
Yeah. And by the way, the Carolina game is not at Chapel Hill. It's at Syracuse. So
it's at Syracuse, yeah. I think that, this Miami game, Miami's been playing a little bit better as of late. So, why are you laughing like that?
I'm laughing because they won one game recently. They won one and then they lost another one. And I don't remember who it was too, but they lost it this weekend. So they had a week off too. Gosh, I'm trying to get to it.
They played Louisville pretty close. They played Louisville to 10 points is I guess what I'm saying.
Okay, all right. Well, fair enough. I'll give you that. They did have a week off, though.
They were getting killed, and then recently they've been playing a little bit, keeping it closer than normal, is really where I'm at. They lost by 37 to Stanford, and SMU game was 117-74. They lost by 35 to Duke, so lost the 4-point. Then they lost a 4-point game to Cal. It looks like they played Virginia and Louisville closer than what they normally would. And like I said, they've kind of been a really bad team. So, again, and being on the road, I'm just saying with all the rest of the road games that we have are all going to be difficult. So this is going to be the easiest road game going through for sure. But
Virginia Tech might not be. I feel like Virginia Tech is not just winnable, but they need to win that game. They have to win that game.
Oh, I get that, but at Pitt's going to be difficult. SMU is going to be difficult. Those are probably our two, toughest games left. And then again, Virginia Tech isn't great this year, but they've been playing a little bit better, and it's tough to play at Virginia Tech as well. The court's tough.
Yeah, it is.
By the way, too, what a bad beat yesterday.
I'm not picking up what you're laying down.
Well, as far as gambling or betting wise, Syracuse is a 7.5 point favorite.
Oh, okay.
So, it's probably multiple times. But anybody that bet BC plus 7.5 probably thought they had it in the bag when they started getting close near the end. And then,
all the times. Yeah.
All of the times. And then they get to the third overtime, and then Syracuse wins by 9.
survival of the fittest, right? I mean, they kind of just beat them out. And one more thing I noticed yesterday too is that Syracuse did not look gassed. Like the energy was there through all of that. And
they played 10.
Yeah, and you had Eddie Lampkin at 29, Chris Bell Eddie Lampkin with 49, Jared Davis with 44, J.J. Starling with 42, and you had Jaquan Carlos off the bench with 33. You had Chris Bell off the bench with 29. You had Kyle Cuff, who was clutch at times of this game. He had a clutch 3. He was at 23 minutes. So I mean, it's good. I like seeing that. You know what I'm saying? That everybody put good minutes in. Even McLeod put good minutes in. I'm a little bit shocked that he even came out. You know, what is he, 8 for 8 on the year?
He's been playing a lot better the last 2 games.
Yeah, he was in there, dude, for 5 minutes. He had 2 blocks, 2 points. Hold on, McLeod, 2 blocks, 2 points, and a rebound in 5 minutes. You can't be mad at that.
No.
So everybody that put their foot on the floor yesterday, I think, did a great job. Despite the opponent, they did a great job.
Yeah.
And we won the rebound battle yesterday, which I don't remember the last time we did that.
Well, we should be able to do that against Miami.
Well, and points in the paint just destroyed them, 52-36. So I'm happy. Okay, should we do some fan feedback now?
Yeah, we can just real quick.
Real quick? Okay.
Don't really have...
You know, okay. All right. Well, it's because I put it up early on. I mean, I figured... Put it up early on Facebook shouldn't hurt anything. By the time people see it, the game was probably over anyway. All right.
I mean, there was definitely one guy that said it ain't over. LOL.
Oh, whatever. I think it was Cuse Waterboy. He was like, "Hey, was this a timed tweet or did you just pull the trigger too early?" Yes, it was. Huh?
Now he knows.
Yeah. So, anyways, yeah. Now he knows. I think I explained it a little bit on social media. I explained what the hell happened because I felt like once I realized the game wasn't over and I was 10 minutes past posting that, I was like, well, I better go on here and see if I need to have some splaining to do. All right.
It's time to hear from you, the loudmouths from the Loud House.
All right. It's been a minute since I've posted mostly because of the the California games, I should say. And I knew we weren't going to get to it because I was out of town. But you know what to do. I asked for your thoughts on the game, even if it's early. They played along on Twitter, by the way. And I appreciate that because it made me feel good that I just didn't get lambasted on Twitter because that's the place where if you're usually going to get it, it's going to be Twitter. So I'll start with my first post. So this is the original one. At Cuse Waterboy 2, guessing you guys set this up on a timer or just pulled the trigger early since it's going into overtime. Laughing. At Coming Soon 62, 2 ACC bottom feeders doesn't make for fine viewing. I mean, I kind of mentioned it. I mentioned it today, and I mentioned it to Joe yesterday when we were on the phone for some of the overtime yesterday. It was tough. It was tough to watch at points. At Joe Catskill, so happy the Orange won, keeping hopes alive for a run in the ACC tournament. Go Cuse. That's the always positive Joe Todora. And look, I can respect that. If you want to use our old philosophy, the philosophy Joe still uses is if you're alive, you're alive. Me, I'm a little bit more cynical about that philosophy these days. But that doesn't make it untrue. That just makes me a negative guy. I was going to call myself something else, but it makes me a little negative. And look, it's hard to stay positive in a season like this. And I guess they can go out and they can make some noise, but they're really going to have to make noise in the ACC tournament. Talk about a run. They need more than a run. They need a miracle. Okay? They get into this thing 15th or 16th. I mean, there's a chance at a 14th spot, but...
What are you talking about?
Huh?
What do you mean?
I'm talking about where they're going to finish in the ACC.
You think they're going to finish that far down?
Well, they're 14th right now, right? Aren't they 14th? Hold on, I had it up. So I'm sorry, they're 14th, right?
I
No,
see 11.
they're not. No, I don't see 11th. I see 14th. Because Notre Dame would be 15th, and then you got your 3 bottom feeders.
I mean, from what I'm seeing, I see Syracuse tied with Georgia Tech, Virginia, and Cal, and it looks like they have the tiebreaker.
They are. Well, if they had the tiebreaker, they would be up higher. Like this is the standings, right?
Where are you looking?
ACC.com. TheACC.com. Basketball, men's basketball standings.
I'm looking at ESPN.com.
Oh, okay. Well, then we have two different. I understand that you've got California, Virginia, Georgia Tech, and Syracuse all 5 and 8. I'm just saying right now, according to this, Syracuse is sitting 14th. But they could jump up. I'm just talking about for seeding. Like, where are they gonna seed at? The only reason I was bringing it up. So they could be, I say, they could get up to 12th. Maybe they have a good shot at 12th. I think with their schedule left, we'll see what happens. But even then, it's still a tough road to hoe. That's the whole point I was trying to make.
Oh yeah, I believe ESPN because I think the ACC. I think they do it in alphabetical order.
Oh, do they? Well, that's possible. Let me look at this.
No, I don't know because we're ahead of Virginia, right? So maybe not. Maybe doesn't make any sense either way. Not a big deal.
No, we're ahead of Virginia's ahead of us. So yeah, it's not alphabetical.
Okay. I wonder. I wish I knew what the tiebreakers were, but either way, we're all tied, right? So.
Right. It's going to come down to similar opponents. I mean, which is everybody, right? So I guess maybe net rankings. I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know. Maybe. I have no idea. By the way, we went down 2 spots in the net from 144 to 146. Not that it matters for not just putting away Boston College like we should have. And
how dare us?
How dare us? You get penalized for that. Okay. At Orange Doug 85. I just can't anymore. Some unnecessary calls for the coach's job. Well, man, I don't know. At Davis 3534, Eddie Lampkin might be the worst defender of all time. I don't know. I don't think he was that bad defending. There was a couple moments. There always is. But I don't know if you could say that he's the worst defender of all time. I mean, he didn't have any blocks or anything. So, I don't know. I mean, it would have been nice to get a couple blocks in there, but he had a deal.
I don't think he's the worst defender. He's talking about Eddie Lampkin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he's the worst defender all time. You know, I think man to man, 1-on-1, I think that he plays pretty good defense on his guy. I think that when it comes down to the pick and rolls and all that stuff, it looks like we struggle every once in a while. And you know, you got to be able to have the mobility to kind of. Well, you're supposed to be able to show enough to allow your guard to catch up and then get back to your guy. And I don't think that he can do that. So he stays with his guys. So that's why a lot of times you'll see that if there's a good enough pick that you get that guard that kind of is just in the middle on their own and they make that shot right there, like that little mid-range shot. So he could definitely play the pick and roll a lot better. But as far as like 1-on-1, man-to-man, I think he's pretty solid. So wouldn't say ever, but yeah.
At David Super, they won. I lost 3 hours watching crap that I'll never get back. Yeah, I mean, it was a 3-hour game. It really was.
Oh, yeah.
At Level Up Luke, I actually watched the game. Totally crap basketball, but we're somehow up to 5 conference wins. Hard to think that's not more of a statement about how down the ACC is right now, but a win is a win. I mean, I don't know. That's kind of a cell phone to a certain extent, but if they only got 5 wins because the ACC is down, I mean, that's even worse. If you want to gauge it like that, I think.
Well, and two, I mean, you have to be able to understand too that all it takes is a little bit of like you said, a run or something like that, or you said like a miracle right now, right? And not to say that we're going to do it or anything like that, but realistically, you look at our schedule and the type of teams that we really aren't too great at, it would be like at Pitt and at SMU. And who knows, if that were to happen. But technically, again, like you said, it's as long as you're alive and you think we need a miracle, we still got 7 games left. And let's just say we go on a 7-game, which again, it would be almost like a miracle, right? But 7 games from now would be 18-13. And then you're talking about a completely different, season. So
yeah,
there's a lot of shoulda, couldas and stuff, but I'm starting to get close towards the spot of if we would have ended up taking care of, the Notre Dame early and the Georgetown and, possibly a Texas, something like that, we were pretty close to being a little bit of a different situation. So I don't know. This is the optimist in me.
Yeah. The optimist in me is sleeping. Just not excited.
No, I know, but I see 4 or 5 more winnable games that I think were like 50-50 or should be, So if you take even winning 4 more games out of the 7, it's still a situation where you're up to 15 wins and, you're still, around 500, but those earlier games could have pushed it one way or another. So I see like if I'm doing chalk, I see 4 games. So they got to pull off SMU, Pitt, or Carolina. I mean, what's your chalk, though? I mean, I feel like Miami. Oops. Oh, yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah, Miami, NC State, Virginia Tech. No, I know, but I just think the way that North Carolina's been playing, and especially being at home, I feel like that's a winnable game, too. I do think that's a winnable game. That's why I made my mention about winning this game, how important this was to go into Miami, play a full game there, and then have North Carolina at home. Yeah, and realistically at Miami, a lot of times, especially the way that they're playing this year, that's probably going to be a home game with all the Snowbirds. Well, it could be. Plus, Miami's pulling like 20 fans of their own. That's what I'm saying. They're not just great anyway. And now you got the Florida, the Snowbirds from New York. I mean, usually our fans show up pretty good in those Florida games. And because Miami's doing so bad, we might have the home field advantage. Yeah. In sunny Florida. Yeah. Let's see. At Cuse Waterboy, fun fact, the West Jenny JV girls basketball team shoots a higher percentage at the free throw line. No lie, my kid's sister plays for them. The line's the same. Is it not? It's the same thing. The ball isn't. The ball isn't, but the hands aren't either. So it's all that comes out in the wash. At Saltine Warrior 4, Fire Red, last minute 30 of regulation. Wow, they didn't foul and play drop defense. Missed free throws all day. Red smiling and clapping on the bench like a bozo. Yeah, I don't know what else he's supposed to do. There was definitely some smiling and clapping. I guess I mean, I don't know. Look, this is to my point. I'm gonna just say this. That last minute 30, he wants to call it minute 30. Okay, that's kind of probably about where I was when I was like, "Is Joe gonna text me? What the hell's going on?" Right? That's probably about where that thought process started for me. So with that said, there's some truth to there. I mean, I get it. I feel like Syracuse, and we said this, at least I said it last year. I feel like Syracuse could benefit from a coach outside of the organization. And I only say that because I've already said it before. I'm not trying to call for anybody's job. I'm not really comfortable doing any of that. I'm not comfortable saying this, that, or the other. I feel like there needs to be. I feel like, I don't know, man. I'm just. It's so disconcerting, The team. It's just, we're not used to this. You don't need instant gratification, but you don't want your team to fall this quickly either. Like, no, like if you're going to kind of sit around where you've been for the past couple of years and, that's one thing, but it's like, it's just so much worse. It's like, you can't help as a human being to be like, all right, look, something needs to change here. And I know they hired a general manager
So that was good on Wild Hack to, I think, get ahead of the curve on that. I don't know how many people have done that, how many schools have done that, but it can't hurt. I don't know what kind of funds are going to this basketball team. We kind of hit on that. We hit on that a little bit last show. But there's a lot of things that go into this besides coaching. And, according to Carl Mintz, everybody on this team is garbage. Basically, he pretty much said that, because what he said is they did a terrible job in the portal. And so he's just calling all these kids garbage, which this team has talent. And this is what comes down to coaching for me. The team has talent. You got to figure out where everybody's strengths are and build off of that. You do the same thing in the workforce. It's just, I just don't feel like there's been a good job of that being done. Plus, and you can talk about other teams in the ACC are having to do the same thing as far as having constant issues with building and cohesion because of all of the turnover on the roster. But at this point in the year, I feel like it should be better than it is, and I'm just confused by it.
Yeah, I know. I get what you're saying. I think that there was some stints in the growth, obviously, and not being able to have our 5-star main recruit that I thought would have been blossomed into a really good player at this point. He's a guy that he could, when he was healthy and kind of had his confidence going, he could get us a bucket. He could shoot over guys, and he was out there giving us different opportunities on the defensively and offensively, as far as like on the rebounding end of it. And so there were reasons and things why we haven't gotten to a certain point this year. And again, but a lot of it goes to NIL, man. Like it's hard to make these fans happy, because we need to have the money to do this stuff, right? You look back, there's a lot of fans that gave Wild Hack and crap and was on social media talking about Fran Brown hire, and they had to get talked into it, but they got talked into it through the season. But there was a whole bunch of people that were talking, he hasn't even been a coordinator. What are we doing? We need a big name hire, da-da-da-da-da. And now, in this case, in this situation, it's kind of stinks, because we go from Boeheim to now an in-person coach, and now people know Autry, and they think that, I think if you're coming from the coaching staff, then I don't think that you get as long of a leash.
That's fair. I think that's fair.
And it sucks when he came in and last year had a better season than what Boeheim's had in quite a couple since he's been in the tournament with Buddy. But yeah, I mean, it's tough, because we need to have those guys. So you're going to have a whole bunch of fans that are talking about, we need a big name hire. Well, that big name hire costs millions of dollars. And then what are you going to have for funds to be able to get the talent you need? So again, it's going to be tough, because even if they get rid of Red, we're probably going to get some kind of hire that is a coach coming from a lower division that's coming up, and it's probably not going to be the coach that these fans want. Like, they think that we are deserving of that name coach, that Rick Pitino, or, that John Calipari, go get a big name coach. And I just don't think it's going to happen that way.
I would love a Rick Pitino hire. That guy's successful everywhere he goes. You can say whatever you want about him, but he was on the coaching staff back in the day. But
right, but my point is that even coaches come out now and they say it doesn't even matter. I mean, look at how many coaches Tony Bennett just got. If you don't have the NIL to get the players, then it don't matter how good of a coach you are.
No, I mean,
especially when you have all these teams poaching, right?
Matter.
Imagine in the business field of it, like you said, you sit here and you build this team of these workers that know what they're doing, and every time that you get to a certain point where a guy reaches a certain skill, then a bigger company just comes across and just poaches them.
Oh, I know, it's dumb. It's so dumb. Like,
you see what I mean? But there's clauses. There's no non-compete clauses and other things like that in the real business world that stop certain companies and certain things from that happening, or at least you being able to bring your stuff over to another place. But they don't have it in the NCAA.
Well, all they got to do is reinstate this transfer rule to some extent. Like, what are we doing?
Like, why is there that every single time there's a coach that comes from a smaller school, a la Louisville, coming from College Charleston, and he gets to bring 2 or 3 of his best players? I mean, it's almost like, so you're just allowed to just take the best players from your last school? Like, obviously, right?
You don't take them. You say, hey, I'm leaving. I'm going to wherever. And if you want to come, there's a spot for you guys on this team.
I'm just saying that professionally.
I know, but
there's rules against that. But for some reason in the NCAA, there's not.
Right, because they need to put, there used to be a rule. We all remember. Like, you had to sit out a year if you transferred. Okay, well, we didn't like that rule. Okay, that's fine. Then I thought I heard of rumors you can only transfer once. That's obviously not true either. I mean, this is a simple fix to the issue. You're never going to be able to put NIL back in the tube. It is what it is. That's not going to get better. This transfer stuff is bonkers, though. Like, no one likes it. The coaches retired over this.
The players do.
Huh?
Players do.
Oh, well, the players do. Yeah, they can sell themselves and the NIL and this and that. You shouldn't be able to transfer this often. It's every year like a feeding frenzy. It makes basketball not fun. It's hard to get to know your team, and there's no consistency. It's like, I don't know, like Kyan Anthony's coming in. Like, let's just see what happens with that. You know what I mean? It'd be very interesting. A legacy player coming in. His dad played 1 year, went to the pros. Maybe he plays 1 year and goes to the pros. I don't know. Maybe he plays 1 year and transfers. Maybe he plays 2 years and transfers. Maybe he plays 2 years and goes to the pro. I don't know. It'd be interesting, though. Because when I say there's no loyalty, I don't think anyone with any last name is necessarily exempt from that. I don't, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So, while we love the legacy players and everybody really loved the Kyan Anthony thing, and myself included, let's see what happens. And we'll see what happens at the end of this year, how Cuse ends up and what happens to coach's career at SU, because I believe that he must look. I think that he thinks what we all think. Well, what I think is that he's got to win. He's got to win games. He wants to keep his job. He's got to make some kind of showing. So it's a tough spot to be in for a coach like him. To be fair, it's a tough spot because the program where when he took it over, a lot of kids left his first year, right? So he's kind of left with some recruits that weren't his. He didn't have his fingers or his hands on everything. Coach McNamara leaves. You know what I'm saying? A lot of things happened last year for Coach Autry.
It was a big change, yeah.
Yeah. So do we just judge all of that off of this year? I mean, it's really easy to say, yeah. And I mean, I'm not going to be mad at you for saying it, but
very unfair.
It's a little unfair, but what's fair anymore? What's even fair? The whole thing's not fair.
Depends on what kind of fan you are,
I guess.
It's funny, too. It's funny that we were talking about that because I just seen on Twitter this guy, Harrington Corey, Cuse fan. He says Rick Pitino was coaching Iona when Jim Boeheim retired. Rick Pitino was Boeheim's protege and very good friend. Syracuse decided not to hire him. He now has St. John's beating the two-time defending champs in their own barn. I've never hated being so right.
Yep, Rick Pitino is a freaking coach. He's been successful every year. He was successful in Iona.
Iona was they were a tough team. Like they ran their conference and they got into the tournaments and I don't think they actually Cinderella beat anybody, but they were tough games. And now I think he's got St. John's ranked 12th.
Yeah, I watched a couple St. John's games this year and thought to myself, damn, that would have been nice. I would have loved a Patino. You get the freaking Patino in there, you get a little Italian in there. He's got his white suit on.
I get it, but it's just when it comes down to it, it's, obviously it's the money. It's all the money. How much money do we have,
Well, I can tell you, they got plenty of money. It just depends on where they want to put it.
It's another fair statement.
They've got plenty of money, okay? How much, well, look.
Well, now the schools
they got,
be able to
they got coffers.
Year, so.
The coffers are going to determine what happens to Coach Autry at the end of the day anyway. So we could probably sit here and, not probably, we're doing it right now. We could sit here and we can we can sit here, we can speculate about this, that, and the other, and we can talk about what's fair and what's not, and what kind of adversity he has to overcome in his first year and second year. At the end of the day, the people with the money are going to determine whether or not Adrian Autry coaches next year. And that's that, because we already seen it once in a different sport. So it's speaking of, mob references. Did I have a mob reference? I was thinking of one. I know that. With Pitino. There's if you can get cut from the family quick, man. It's going to happen just like that. Like, once it's your time, it's your time. You're in the back of a trunk, bro, heading down to the swamp. It is what it is.
The men's shoes.
Yeah. At Theo Cuse, they made it interesting, that's for sure. Loved the fight. On a more somber note, I remember when Syracuse started to consistently be left out of the NCAA tournament and were typically on the bubble each year. Being on the bubble for the ACC tournament, though, tough times. That's a great point. But, Theo, I don't think Syracuse misses the ACC. They call it the little dance now. Okay, this is being dubbed as. I just heard that during the broadcast yesterday.
God.
So it's true, though. And you know what? Part of me likes this. Because 18 teams is too many anyway. Part of me likes it. And it gives us a little bit more. It lights that fire up under your ass just a little bit higher to be a little bit better and to not put yourself in that situation. However, Syracuse did put themselves in this situation. I do think that they make it, though. And I don't think it's really because of the 3-game lead they have over there's 2 teams that won 2 games and 1 team that won 1 game in the ACC. So it's because of that right now where I feel very comfortable. I said it and I'll say it again. At free.com. That's weird. At free.com. Moore barely played the second half and not 1 second in 3 overtimes, but scored more points than Cuff and Carlos combined. Yeah, I don't know.
Scored for 7 points, right? Or 9 or something like that.
Elijah Moore scored 11 points. And Cuff and Carlos scored 8. He was right. He was 3.
But I think he had like the first 8 points or something like that, though.
He had the first 6. It was 2 threes. I remember that. I don't know about the first 8. But with that said, I don't know. He played 17. I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know. I'm not a coach. I didn't even notice that. That's a good observation, actually. At Barry Cuse, people are going to pretend this was a great game. Okay, I thought this yesterday. I like this already. People are going to pretend this was a great game. Autry nearly cost us the game with the strategy going into overtime. Happy they won, but Autry's still showing his incapable of X's and O's. That's not where I was going with it. Here's where I was going to go with it. We've talked enough about coach. I think we can move on from that, at least for this game. People were going to pretend this is like some epic game. My dad texted me and was like, man, what a great game. And I'm like, I guess it should have been over an hour ago.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, this had the makings of 6 overtime UConn game. No. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could play 10 overtimes in this game and it's still not going to be epic, in my opinion. Is that terrible?
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you for giving me one. Jeez.
Yeah.
Okay. What else do you got? I'll do this last one and then at Daily Cuse. I want to be excited, but I can't. I'm just embarrassed. At Michael, but you got to remember the old adage, an ugly win is better than a pretty loss. You have to remember that a W is a W. Like, we had to win this game.
Yeah.
But I understand the spirit behind this. It's exactly what we were just talking about and what Syracuse Barry was talking about. At Michael R3848, it was an entertaining game, but should have won like 13 points in regulation. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Go ahead, Joe. What do you got on the Book of Faces? Probably nothing.
I mean, really, Jake, He said, "Do not call this a classic unless you're an Indiana Hoosier fan. 3 straight missed front end 1-and-1s at the end of regulation. Good Lord. I've complained all year about Autry, but I'd rather have had him at the free throw line."
Not a bad point.
Yeah. Gary should have won it in regulation, should have guarded the 3-point line at the last inbounds for Boston College, and that's it. Why is Lampkin below the free throw line? Let them score 2 points, no threes. That was definitely, I know we didn't talk about that specific play, but that was, I don't understand out of a timeout. I mean, I get you're going to run a play, but no threes is no threes.
Yeah, I mean, that's all they needed.
I don't care. Let them go drive and get a layup.
Yeah, who cares?
What's going to go on?
Nothing. What was there, 9 seconds left? 7 seconds left at that point?
I don't even know how much there was.
I think it was like 7 seconds because we got the ball with like 2 point something left.
Yeah.
It heaved one up. Wasn't even close.
No.
There was
So
one.
even
There was
if you
one
do that,
close
right?
though at the end of the first overtime. What's that?
No, but like I say, even if you do that, let's say there's 3 seconds, right? I mean, and I get it. They can steal the inbounds play and all that other stuff, but like you let them get a basket or you don't give them a 3, let them get a 2. And now you're inbounding the ball with 3 seconds left. They have to foul you, go to the free throw line. Even if you go all the way to the other, like what are the chances that they're going to make some type of shot with like 1 point whatever seconds left or 2 seconds?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's just
playing the odds of the time on the clock for sure.
right. So there's really only a lot of, again, I told you, Dave said it ain't over, LOL. Cannot make free throws. I finally prevailed in third overtime. Coaching need to change. Can't make a free throw. And then Mike says, I can't even with this team. They're like the complete package of every bad Boeheim thing. Can't defend, can't shoot, can't make free throws. They play like it's the first time they've ever stepped onto the court together.
Can rebound.
Why would Cayenne and Sadiq would still want to come to this dumpster fire escapes me.
They haven't stepped on the court yet.
Well, no, but I guess he's saying, why would those players even want to come here? Which,
right. And I'm saying, well, they're not here yet necessarily. So,
I mean, they pretty much at this point.
They pretty much are, right? Okay, all right. Well, I mean, fair.
I just don't know as a fan why you'd want to say something like that. I mean,
because people are pissed off.
Who cares why they'd want to come here? Just be happy that they're coming here. Otherwise, what's the ladder?
Yeah, well, I mean, they're pissed. Fans are pissed off, and that's just a pissed off fan comment. And I mean, I get it. I do. Now, I don't. It's not my train of thought. Why would you want to come here? I mean, I think the reason they'd want to come here, maybe they're looking at this like, look, I could make this team better. Like, I have enough faith in myself. I feel like I could go in and lead. I feel like I can make something out of this team. I wish I was playing right now. You don't know. You know what I'm saying? And if you're thinking any less of yourself as a recruit, anyway, if you're like, oh, I don't want to play for this team, they suck. Like, you're just kind of a horrible team. You're probably a horrible teammate anyway, in my opinion. Like, you could. I think to be a little bit more. These guys, they believe a lot in themselves, right? Athletes are typically confident in themselves. They've been kind of, I don't want to say coddled, but they've kind of been dealing with themselves being exceptionally well at whatever sport they're in since they're in high school, right? So
before that, yeah.
Right, before that. So I think that if you're in the right mindset, you're thinking, well, I can help this team. And maybe I can lead this team. And, I guess that's probably where they'd be coming from, I would hope. But I wouldn't question it. Like you said, to your point, I agree. But however, the flip side of that is some dude on Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, I know. And at the same time, too, like Syracuse still has a brand, right? We're just going through kind of a rebranding, new coach and just trying to figure this whole new NIL stuff out. So, I don't think that it's necessarily the basketball is gone forever. It's just, I think it's going through a 4-decade.
No. Yeah, it ain't gone forever. No.
No. I'm just saying you got to look at what it was for so long. What made Syracuse basketball what it was for so long, and Jim Boeheim in the 2-3 zone, and not the NIL, right? Like there's all these new things now where like 2-3, I mean, you could play it situationally, but you can't do it as a main defense, right? And obviously Jim Boeheim, older coach, newer players. There's just a newer generation of basketball, and we're just kind of stuck in the abyss of a change, right? Like we don't really know how to handle it. And I think that happened with football, and I think that we made the right choice. And hopefully, moving forward, Red and them can figure it out, and we can get back to where we used to be, I mean, that's really all you can hope for. I mean, I hope that Red figures it out. I hope that we don't have to go through another coaching change and all that, because, again, that kind of stunts the growth. It's only his second year. He's got his guys in there this year, and I'm sure you're going to learn something from the transfer portal situation and everything like that and how things are handled. And, next year will be just a new year.
I mean, it doesn't always necessarily stunt the growth.
What, as far as having a coaching change?
Yeah.
Well, now that it's the wild, wild west, and no, yeah, absolutely not. I mean, it doesn't need to, right? Like, again, you look at Louisville and actually jumped it. If you get the right guy and they get the right players in there.
Right. It's cohesion, it's coaching, it's personnel, it's assistance, it's money.
It's a lot of stuff right now.
Yeah, it's a lot. I could probably keep going, but yeah, it's a lot of stuff. So, anyway.
Look, at least he's got more wins than Fran Brown got in football, because that was a question there for a little while.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, the modern era, I have to go back and look. I don't have it in front of me right now, but I think it was 17 wins a couple years ago was the lowest that we've had, like through Jim Boeheim's tenure, since there's been this many games to be played. And it's going to be, I don't think we get to that, because I don't see a path to 6. We'd have to go 6-1, right? It's only 7 games left, right?
Was that 17 you counting the tournament or just regular season?
Regular season. Well, if you win 17, you ain't going to the tournament anyway, right? Well, I guess it would. I guess it would be counting the ACC tournament. But I don't think they won. I don't think they won a game that year. I have to go back and look. So maybe there was an extra game, but that was just in general, that was the least amount of wins that this team has had since I've been alive. Put it that way. So.
Yeah, and again, I mean, I get it, but it's like we're going through, if not the worst, very close to the worst Syracuse basketball season as fans in our lifetimes, right? So I can understand the fans and everything like that, but we can also have to understand that within our lifetimes, we have gone through the biggest change this past offseason, in these past couple off seasons, right? Like you lose Boeheim, but you kind of retain the players and the people that they had. And then all of a sudden, like you said, a lot of people leave, go to the NBA, transfer. You lose McNamara as a coach. That was really a bigger change than losing Boeheim and going to Red Autry, right? Because he even said that all the coaches knew, how they did things and ran things. So, like to your point earlier, the change from Boeheim to Autry was big, but the bigger change came when we lost all those players and McNamara as a coach this past offseason. So I don't think that the irony, I don't even know if that's the right word, but like it's one of those things where it's not surprising to me that after the biggest change in college in Syracuse basketball for the last 40 years and in our lifetime last year coincides with one of the worst seasons in our lifetime.
Yeah.
Not surprising.
No, it's not surprising. I mean, it is what it is. Kind of never really had a real high expectation for this team coming into this year anyway.
Oh, well, because there's a whole bunch of players you didn't know about. But when you step back and you look at it like 40-foot view, like we've been talking about, and you brought up earlier, like I said, all those transfers last year and good players. And we're like, why did they leave? Why did they leave? And then McNamara left. And like, why is he leaving? Like,
well, if you remember right, when Mike Hopkins left, and you could say what you want about his coaching tenure in Washington and whether or not it would have worked out here, but he left because coach kind of signed on for longer than expected, and he was kind of waiting for that job, right? And then that's exactly what happened to McNamara. Like McNamara's like, man, I've freaking spent my whole life here, pretty much, like since high school, since out of high school.
Right.
I've been here for how long, and okay, I didn't get the job. Well, it's time for me to move on. Then the writing's on the wall, right? So,
we're going through a change.
Right. It was going to happen.
No, we're going through a change, and the NCAA is going through the change with these NIL and all that stuff. And I think that it's going to take a little while to figure it out in the wash. Now, whether that's Autry being the coach or whether that's us getting away from the family in the way that we've always done it, it's yet to be seen. But something in the back of me wants it to work out for Coach Red. I really do.
Well, I mean, why wouldn't you? I don't care who's the coach's name is. If they're successful, it doesn't matter to me.
Well, right. I'm just saying I just would like to think and hope that we don't have to go through a coaching change to make that happen. So,
right. Okay. Fair enough. All right. It's that time. It's that time where I hit this button and we say goodbye. And I thank you all for being here and listening. And if you sat through the hour and 20 minutes of this, well, we owe you one. Okay? So, we love you. We appreciate you. Until next time, for Joe, I'm Sean. We're out.
Peace.